Hello there guys, Brian here at 3TR, and I have a pretty interesting topics list to share with you guys today. Now, at the time of this recording, I'm currently playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I'm only about, say, halfway through the game. But I think I've played enough of this game to actually warrant doing a top 5 favorite Assassin's Creed games list, so here we are. Now, before I get into my list, I would like to warn you that I haven't played all of the Assassin's Creed games. I think the ones that I haven't played are Syndicate, Unity, and Origins, but I have played the rest of them, and I do have an interesting experience with the first game, but that's beside the point. So, without wasting any more time, let's jump into my first list, starting off with number 5.
Number 5 on my list is actually the newest installment that has been released at the time of this recording, and that is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Now, having not played Assassin's Creed Origins, this is really my first time playing the new gameplay style, which certainly brought a serious amount of RPG elements to the franchise. And since RPGs just so happen to be my favorite genre of game, that instantly made Odyssey an addicting game to play, making it really difficult for me to focus on the main story as I continued to find myself completing side mission after side mission in an ever-continuing obsession to level up my character and get the best gear. I absolutely love this setting, taking place through Greece during, I believe, the time of the Peloponnesian War. And with me being such a big history buff for this particular era, this just might be, in terms of time periods, my favorite era to play, even more so than Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. I was even surprised with the amount of Greek mythology that was added to this game, and the combat system is definitely my favorite within the entire franchise. But what really holds this game back, at least for me, is how the story is handled and its relevance to the franchise. After having played this game for well over 40 hours at the time of this recording, I can't help but wonder why this is even called Assassin's Creed. If anything, it feels like it's trying to be a prequel to the entire conflict that we have known, and I'm just thinking that if they were going to go in that direction, why not just call it a completely different game and have it be the beginning of a new franchise? And on top of that, I'm not a fan at the story at all and how it is being told. How the game handles which protagonist you choose and plays feels rather lazy to me, as there's literally no difference, and I really wish the game had done a much better job at showing what is the difference between playing between the two protagonists, because I really don't like how the world doesn't change regardless of who you're playing. I understand from what I've heard, most people do prefer to play as Cassandra, but the way that she is treated as a complete equal is completely inaccurate to the time period. And I know that this is supposed to be a video game, but with me having so much knowledge about this time era and how most women were actually treated, just making that decision just feels off. And I think that with the developers deciding to apply a dialogue choice system in order to make it so you can actually influence the way the story plays out, just feels like they're trying to copy Mass Effect too well, and that just lacks originality. So while this game excels in its gameplay department, it really falls short in the storytelling department. And since this is placed in my favorite era to date, that just makes it that much more disappointing. But this is still a very enjoyable game, which is why it takes the number 5 spot on my list. Number 4 on my list is Assassin's Creed Rogue, which to its core is really just Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag with a different paint job and placed in a different setting. Now, the best aspect of Assassin's Creed Rogue is the story itself. I thought it was very refreshing to play a game that has you start out as a member of the Brotherhood that converts the Templars. Up to this point, we were always given the impression that the Assassins were the good guys and the Templars were the bad guys, but seeing things from a different point of view kind of creates a new gray area that shows you that there may be some aspects of the Templars that are completely justifiable. And it's also fascinating that out of any installment throughout the entire franchise, that this game is the most connected. It plays as a sequel to Assassin's Creed 4 while taking place during the events of both Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed Liberation, and leads up to the events of Assassin's Creed Unity. And the fact that it plays out so well gives it some extra points in my eyes. Gameplay-wise, it plays exactly like Assassin's Creed 4, which made it very easy for me to pick up and get used to the game in regards to its combat system, style of exploration, as well as naval combat, which, despite my feelings of Odyssey, I would still consider the naval combat in 3, 4, and Rogue to be superior. If there's any one flaw that I can pick out from Assassin's Creed Rogue, it is the fact that combatively, you don't really feel like much of a Templar. It would have been nice to give Shay's gameplay additions that show what kind of resources you have at your disposal as a member of the Templars, but without them, you just wonder what's the difference. With the game giving you a chance to play as both an assassin and a Templar, it would have had a much greater impact to show the differences, but despite not having this aspect, that still doesn't hold this back from being probably one of the more underrated games in the entire franchise. Number 3 on my list is really going to surprise a number of you, because to this day, it is considered to be the best in the franchise, and that just so happens to be Assassin's Creed 2. Now, as someone who really disliked the very first Assassin's Creed game, when it came to the sequel, at first I was very hesitant, and I thought it would not be any good. But I'm glad I was proven wrong, as this is the very installment that made me an official fan of the series. To this day, Ezio is still my favorite Assassin's Creed character, and I really do consider Assassin's Creed 2 to be the very title that all installments should be compared to, as it really does manage to pull off every aspect that a great game should get right with flying colors. I think the development of Ezio as a character is handled just fine, and I think that the story's progression feels a bit stretched at times, but it does manage to balance itself out to make for a good paced game that never feels too drawn out at points, which is what gives it my number 3 spot on this list. Number 2 on my list is Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Now, as great as Assassin's Creed 2 was, like any great trilogy, the sequel always manages to take things to the next level, and that is exactly what Assassin's Creed Brotherhood did. Absolutely everything from Assassin's Creed 2 was improved upon, and story-wise, I loved everything that happened throughout the game. The beginning of the game really kicks off with a major bang, and during this game, I really feel that Ezio was really at the peak of his assassin's career, as he is single-handedly responsible for building up the strength of the Brotherhood in all of Italy. I really enjoyed the 2 primary villains as well, as they really presented a real threat to Ezio, and it really forced his character to have to take more of a leadership role than simply being another member of the Brotherhood. And he also feels really good as a teacher and taking a leadership position. Gameplay-wise, absolutely everything was improved upon. The recruitment function was an addition that still to this day is one of my favorite gameplay additions in the entire franchise, because not only do you get an opportunity to recruit new members to the Brotherhood, but you can actually send them on assignments and you can see them develop. And nothing is cooler than being surrounded by enemies just to call in your assassins to kill everything in sight and disappear in a few seconds, which no other title, including the follow-up Revelations, was able to replicate with such perfection, which is why it gets the number 2 spot on this list. Number 1 on my list and my favorite Assassin's Creed game of all time is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. For anyone who knows me or has watched my channel for any amount of time, you would know that my favorite Assassin's Creed couldn't be anything other than Assassin's Creed 4. After not being able to push myself to finish Assassin's Creed Revelations and being somewhat disappointed with Assassin's Creed 3, the one thing that I took away from Assassin's Creed 3 was how awesome the naval combat sections were, and how great it would be to have an entire game focus on that aspect, and that is exactly what Ubisoft did for us. While Ezio is my favorite Assassin's Creed character, Edward serves as a good number 2, and being by far the most badass character in the entire franchise. Just the idea of playing as a pirate is such a fun concept, and having a character like Edward who is more for himself at the beginning and doesn't care about the struggle between the Assassins and the Templars is just so refreshing. And I think that it was in this game that the element of the Animus was the least annoying to me, since I have never liked that element in the overarching story that is played throughout the entire franchise. The combat and exploration mechanics were top-notch, and building on the only gameplay element that I felt was of any good in Assassin's Creed 3, the naval combat, and expanded upon it, making it more so that you could not only captain your own ship, but you could actually board and take opposing ships to build your fleet and use it for however you want it, is just such an incredible concept. Another aspect of Assassin's Creed 4 that I praise is that it is my belief that just as God of War 3, to me, was really the best use of the classic version of its gameplay style at that point in time, Assassin's Creed 4 was the best version of the gameplay style that had spanned from Assassin's Creed 1 all the way to Assassin's Creed Syndicate. And because of that, it made it the most enjoyable game during the classic era of Assassin's Creed games before Origins and Odyssey showed up. And therefore, that is more than enough reason for why Assassin's Creed 4 may always remain my favorite entry in the entire franchise.
And that concludes my list of my top 5 favorite Assassin's Creed games. So, now that you know my list, let me know what are your top favorite Assassin's Creed games in the franchise. Share your list with me and everyone else in the comments down below. And if you like this video, please feel free to like this video and also press one of the links in the description down below to follow me on Twitter and friend me on Facebook. And if you happen to have any other topic list ideas for certain game franchises or even movie franchises, please share ideas in with me in the comments down below as well. And heck, and if I happen to use it, I'll be sure to give you a shout out at the beginning of the video. So with that said, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.